Grace McKenna laughed out loud when I said that I was 5 years old when I mastered martial arts and I had a serious face, and I said I didn't say anything funny, and she stopped laughing instantly when she saw my scary face, and I said it's okay, you see my father wasn't an ordinary man. When I was 5 years old my old man fought me in a fight and I knocked him out for about 2 minutes, and after that I continued fighting him for years. Even after I beat him he wouldn't stop trying to kill me with his bare hands, so one day in the ring I killed him. When I was 10 years old I didn't mean to kill him, honestly I still regret it till this day. Despite the fact he was an abusive father, I think he really loved me. And then I cried and I said, you know, he took care of me well, even left me a fortune. And she asked, who was your father? And I said my father's name was Yujiro Hanma. And she said, no way. And I said yes way, and my brothers are Baki Hanma and Jack Hanma and they are still alive. And she said, no wonder you said you don't need my money, your father was probably one of the richest men on earth. And I said yes ma'am, he was. And I said now I want to go eat a lot of food, you can come with me. And she said but I need to go back to my father. And I said no you're not, you're staying with me, and if your father or anyone else comes around to take you from me I will kill them with my bare hands, because you're carrying my child and now I can't let you leave my sight. And she said okay, I will stay with you, please don't hurt me. And I said calm down Grace, I don't hurt women, I make love to them but I don't hurt them. And she said well why did you say you would kill any man trying to take me from you? And I said because I will, and there's nothing no one else can do about it, everyone knows me, they know who I am. And then we went to eat food at a local dinner and I ate many steaks and I ate a lot of food and everyone watched me eat frightened, and I ate fast and Grace only ate one plate of food and she was on her second plate. And I said interesting, so are you hungry? And she said yes I am, but you are eating for a whole family. And I said trust me honey, I need it, and besides I can pay them, I have plenty of money. And she asked well why don't I just go with you? And I said yes you could do that, but would your father leave you alone? And she said no he won't. And I said interesting, so I think you have a bit of feelings for your father and you're kind of in a relationship with him, aren't you? And I said well now that I'm here and I had sex with you, you will not be having sex with your father. And I said you will be having sex with me from now on, are we clear? And then the waitress walked up and said sir are you done? And I said yes ma'am, how much will that be? And she said that will be $2,000. And I asked do you take credit cards? And she said no. And I said such a shame, I could have given a beautiful woman like you a tip. Any ATMs in town ma'am? And she said yes sir, there's a couple in town. And she blushed and I gave her $3,000 of my money. And then I walked with Grace McKenna in town, and then her father rolled up on us, and when he saw me he was terrified and he said Grace, get away from that man now. And I grabbed Grace McKenna and said she's not going anywhere with you old man, she's staying with me now, and you can fuck off you old fart. And then he got out of the car with his little gun and said you give me my daughter back right now you big motherfucker. And I said no, and I took the gun from his hands and I said nice shotgun, it's a Remington double barrel shotgun, old school, made for hunting. And then I said Grace, I want to show you something. And then I gave him back the gun and I put Grace McKenna behind me holding her with both of my hands behind me, and I said shoot me old man, you miserable old pedophile fuck, shoot me. And then he shot me 4 times with his gun and everyone in town saw it and the bullets did nothing to me. And I laughed out loud and I said you weakling, your weak firearms can't kill me, you little insect, you're a piss ant compared to me. And then I grabbed Jake McKenna really fast and I beat him to death with my bare hands right in front of Grace McKenna, and she did nothing. And I said to everyone in town you all saw that he shot me 4 times and I killed him out of self-defense, and because of all the witnesses the sheriff couldn't do anything to me, or the judges either, they tried to throw the book at me but they couldn't, the amount of witnesses were staggering. So I killed a man in self-defense and I got away with it, and Grace McKenna got her money. And then Sheriff Virgil Potter tried to confront me about Grace McKenna and then he assaulted me in public. He tried hit me first and his punches couldn't hurt me, he's a weakling. And I stood there and took it and I said officer are you done now? And he said you can't have Grace McKenna. And I said yes I can and I will, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then he pulled his gun out.